Today I'm going to be talking about Pump Up the Volume. I'm not going to be talking about anything specifically political, although originally I wanted to, but I realized I was going way too long. However, this movie is pretty deep and it does touch on a lot of sensitive topics, so warning for that. So Pump Up the Volume is a 1990 film directed by Alan Moyle, who has also directed Empire Records, and I would consider this to be the better of the lesser-known 90s Moyle films. So Pump Up the Volume is about Mark, played by young Christian Slater, and he is this shy, socially awkward, lonely, depressed teenager who has just moved to Arizona with his parents because his father has gotten a job as the school commissioner. To be honest, I'm not entirely sure what a school commissioner is, but I'm pretty sure that means he's on the school board. But what does he commission? Who knows? Mark is deeply resentful of his parents and uses this impressive electronic setup he has to host a pirate radio channel under the pseudonym Happy Harry Hardon. To be clear, I don't know anything about radio because that wasn't a big thing when I was alive. I guess I have podcast privilege. But basically, he's an angsty teen on the internet. So Mark goes on air on the same time every night, and he listens to some great music from Leonard Cohen to the Beastie Boys and a bunch of stuff in between. He waxes poetic, and he reads letters that his listeners, which are mostly his classmates, send to him. And honestly, this movie is basically a series of soliloquies on the part of Christian Slater's character, Mark. Okay, so there's a dramatic difference between Happy Harry Hardon's persona and Mark's persona. First of all, Happy Harry Hardon, well, I mean, it's in the name. Whereas Mark, again, is this shy, kind of lonely teenager who keeps his, eyes downcast, and he doesn't speak up, and he wears glasses, so I'm not really sure, did this make me a different person? Say Clark Kent. Didn't even get that. I don't get the difference between why he can see perfectly fine when he's messing with his radio, but he can't see when he's in school. I don't get it, but alright, whatever, it's fine. We'll Clark Kent this. His peers become more and more important in the film, and they become more important or more interested in him, especially this one young lady who's known as the Eat Me Beat Me lady, Nora. She writes him letters that he receives at his P.O. box, and she listens to him nightly, and she becomes a sort of sardonic detective in an attempt to figure out who he is, which she eventually does. Normally, I don't really like love stories in movies that really just don't need them to have a full story in film. This one, I really didn't mind it because she pursues him. This is 1990. We're finally getting to the point where people realize women are sexual human beings, and that's fine. And Mark, as Christian Slater, he's not a leading man. He's this shy teen who can't even talk to Nora. And this kind of shows that men in the 90s, we can finally allow them to be sensitive human beings, and that's also fine. Progress. Baby steps, but progress. A huge plot point in the film deals with the corruption of the school, particularly on the part of the principal. The students with the lowest test scores are being kind of forced to drop out, or they're being expelled for really minor infractions. And this is in an attempt to make the school look like their test scores are much higher. Generally, in the United States, schools that have higher test scores get more funding, which does not make any sense to me, but that's this whole other long conversation. Anyway, so this film really deals with teens versus adult, and I really respect that the movie doesn't delve into these teen stereotypes and cliques and has the teens kind of alienating one another. No, this is strictly us, versus them. Teens are all together, versus the adults. And there are some good adults in the film, like Mark's parents and this one English teacher who kind of gives me vibes of Drew Barrymore's character from Donnie Darko. But again, I really just liked the way that the film set that up and didn't go down this whole long road of like there's an us versus them versus them versus them. It doesn't do that, and I like that. It takes a hard look at the broken educational system, and it's saying a lot against them, which I really liked. The school even has this comprehensive American value program. What the is even that? They have this sort of, it's like this straight out of freaking Carpenter's They Live. It's weird, and there's a message in that, and there's a right way that children should be to become the right kind of adults, which are good little consumers and good little citizens. If you haven't seen They Live, please go watch it. And they're pressured in to meet these standards and conform to the status quo, but to quote Dr. Horrible, the status quo is not quo. One particular girl who's viewed as being this kind of like perfect girl and this like model student, who's clearly being pressured by her father and her peers to kind of fit into this certain view that they have of her, ends up blowing up her microwave after listening to Mark's airings. Another major effect is this one teen writes, whenever someone leaves a phone number, he calls in. So this one teen writes in and leaves a number, and Mark calls him. And he ends up being a queer teen who was bullied, and I got a little confused, but it seemed like he was saying that he was sexually assaulted by these by this one boy, and kind of misled by him and made fun of by this group right after, which is horrific. And this is the 90s. I think that's a really big step in going towards acceptance and listening and viewing queer people as effing people. Another major shift comes when this one letter arrives wherein the writer asks Mark if he should take his own life. So he left his number, and Mark calls the writer, and it's truly heartbreaking. This is, Mark at first thinks it's a joke, but it is not, and it quickly becomes queer. And Mark, at first he kind of makes fun of him, but once he realizes it's a little bit more dire, Mark asks why he wants to take his own life. The caller, Malcolm, responds, "I'm all alone," and his voice breaks, and I think the actor does a good job, and the movie actually does a good job of setting it up. He's shown in the opening sequence on the bus and a little bit throughout being isolated. It's a really sad moment, and Mark tries to kind of sympathize with him, but it's too late at this point, and Malcolm hangs up, and then it's clear he takes his own life. And Mark learns what happened the next day, and that becomes a really important catalyst for the film as it kind of shifts in terms of the atmosphere. But I'll get to that in just one second. Another point I want to make before I return to that is that Mark ends up starting this uprising at the school, which results in this teen who's pregnant getting to come back to school, as we see that she had already been expelled, and some other students who had been really wrongfully expelled by this amoral principal end up getting also possibly being able to be re-enrolled, but more importantly, the principal is fired by Mark's father. And an important part is that Mark gets arrested for having this pirate radio station, which is illegal. Again, I don't really understand radio stuff because podcast privilege and YouTube privilege. So Mark did do something illegal. I wouldn't go so far as to say it was wrong. It was like, I don't think he's a bad person for it. It was just illegal. And he was arrested for it. While they were playing Dad, I'm going to jail. I love that song. And the kids who suffered from not meeting the school standards, who were wrongfully penalized, get redeemed and get saved. And the true villain, the principal, is punished. And I kind of want to know if the cool teacher got her job back too, but I'm not sure. We're not given privy to that. So this film, okay, well, my previous review was of Risky Business, and all over it I had scribbled, this movie is so Reagan era. Pump Up the Volume is the antithesis of Reagan era. This is 1990. This is anger. This is angst. This is dejection. This is rebellion. This full force in your face. We are tired. And that was before I was born. Yes, this is a 90s kid review. This is a 90s movie, but it still came out before I was born, so I'm reviewing it. I'll tell you if it held up. At this point, if you can't figure it out that I think it holds up, I don't know what. A really important part, I think the most important part, the thing that this film tackles is the importance of what Mark's doing. Talking. Words have meaning. Yes, so I'm going to start talking about the First Amendment here, so if this is not something you're interested in, I'll just say the movie holds up, and if you want to keep watching, thank you so much. Also, I apologize, I have a sore throat. Okay. The First Amendment does give people the right to free speech, but that does come with filters. The filter of your language, of your vocabulary, meaning the words that you know within your language, and your own conscience. Like, there are certain things that you just won't say. There's also, I guess, environment. I didn't calculate that into it, but, like, you know, maybe when you're around your grandma, you won't drop the F-bomb, but when you're around your friend, you do, that sort of thing. But there are also two other important filters, which are medium and something I've labeled brand. So medium refers to the form in which you are spreading your message. And your message could be written, verbal, it could be drawing, whatever. You know, Banksy has a lot of messages, but they're not written or verbal, they're pictures. In the case of Mark, he is disseminating his message via the radio. For most people today, it's social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, etc. For me, I do it on various websites and YouTube. My own personal websites on, you know, like WordPress, Weebly, Wix, etc. I have a lot of websites. I have too many. It's a problem. And then also for your brand, I don't necessarily mean like your brand specifically, but I mean like who you're working for, essentially. And this is a big issue when it comes to news outlets. I did a whole thing on it regarding yellow journalism, which is a really long video I made that I don't regret. It was really long though. So when someone is conveying a message, again, whether it's written, spoken, art, etc., it often goes through the filter of your boss, your manager, your agent, your sponsor. So freedom of speech, free speech basically is generally bought and paid for when you are hearing it, which is kind of sad. You hear YouTubers complaining a lot about having things being demonetized when they're talking about important things, particularly as right now Black Lives Matter or LGBTQ rights, particularly for trans individuals, I know often get demonetized, which is ridiculous because apparently that's not deemed something that should be sponsored by a company. That's kind of disgusting. But they have that choice. Anyway, that's not a whole long big thing. So Mark doesn't have a brand. He is talking for no one but himself. He doesn't have to answer for his message to any higher ups, but he still does. He's talking because it's cathartic to him. Like I said, he's a lonely teen. Yeah, me too, Mark, me too. Quarantine 2020, guys. He doesn't have sponsors, and also he's anonymous. I should mention, that's also kind of probably a filter, that your identity is, and the idea of having repercussions for your words is sort of a filter. But I guess that goes back to your conscience, so same thing. So he's able to speak without, you know, feeling like people are going to know who he is. But as I said before, words have meaning. They have power. As the tagline of this movie indicates, talk hard. Words invade, alright? Mark did the right thing in an illegal way, and he does have to pay for that at the end. His methods, and more importantly, his words had consequences, both good and bad. We often associate the word consequence meaning just bad, but there are positive and good consequences too. The girl who blew up the microwave gets to, say to the world, I'm tired of this pressure. The teen mother gets to complete her education, as well as some others. Malcolm took his own life. That's a real big negative one. Okay? Sometimes in doing the right thing has consequences. There's a price to be paid for standing up for the right thing, which is sad, but so often true. I'm going to use the example of Colin Kaepernick, who is obviously very prominent figure right now, as he should be, and as he should have been years ago. He stood up and did, well, he knelt, but you get the thing. He did the right thing, and he broadcasted his message. However, he didn't do it on his own platform being Medium. He did it on someone else's, and he had people to answer for and to his brand, if you will. And he paid the price for doing that, for doing the right thing, which is unfortunate. And there comes a point where you have to ask, why? Why, 30 years later, is there still this us, the we without power, the we who are in most need, versus them, those in power? Why is there this dichotomy still exists? And I mean, obviously that's because people in power want to keep power, and so they keep the people who are lower than them lower and without it. And that creates an inability to enact change. Again, that comes into this whole big long conversation that I won't get into regarding why allies and having the people in the majority listen to your message are actually more important, because you can spread your message all day long if the vast majority of people, and specifically if the people in power, aren't being affected by that. Generally, specifically in terms of their wallet, they're not going to care. That's why I truly and sincerely hope that the Black Lives Matter movement enacts more change, as it deserves to do so. Again, a whole big long thing, but you have to, it's not on Black Americans to change, it's on white Americans to change. So again, that comes down to allyship, and that comes down to message, and that comes down to all of these filters, and what is the right way to send a message, and what are the repercussions of that message. And we hope that there are positive consequences to it, of course, always. But inevitably, there will be negative consequences, and that's something particularly at this moment in time we can so clearly see, that in doing the right thing, there are these massive fallbacks and setbacks that come along with it, that we can only cross our fingers and work hard to hope that the people in power are open and receptive, even though too often they are not and have not been, and that is so unfortunate. So in conclusion, I'm sorry this is so long, Leonard Cohen's song in this film is perfect. They play Everybody Knows, and the line from that is, everybody knows the fight was fixed, the poor stay poor, the rich stay rich. This movie more than holds up and is so painfully relevant today. This movie was my teen movie. I saw it when I was 14, and this is the movie that, to me, there weren't a lot of teen movies that I related to that came out when I was in high school. This is the one that I did. I love it. It is tragic. It is moving. It is fun. It is goofy. Well, it's not goofy, but it's fun, but it's got like this really bad love story in it, but it works because it's different. It's so different. It is so 90s, and it's yet still so today, because the 90s just got more, we didn't progress since then, and we need to, and I sincerely hope that we do get better, because we can be better. Thank you so much for watching. If you watched to the end, wow, like I appreciate it so much. I hope everybody has a good day, and stay safe, and wash your hands, and wear a mask, and remember other people on this planet and in this country exist, and we're all just trying to get by. And remember, again, lastly, and not most importantly, but just remember, words matter. So think about yours. Thank you so much, and have a blessed day.